Tech Criminalization and Education Coalition's Ending Youth Surveillance series. Tonight, we are excited to share and present with our special guests from Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. We will be talking about what the telehealth. But first, we'll kick it off by introducing the Notice Coalition, sharing a bit about the Ending Youth Surveillance series, and then an introduction of myself and my co-founder, Clarence Oko. So we are excited here tonight to be in this ongoing Ending Youth Surveillance series where we feature different topics that are impacting our communities and schools around youth surveillance. And the No Tech Criminalization and Education Coalition has been around for over 5 years now. And we are working at both the grassroots and the national level to really educate folks about the expansion of educational technologies that are resulting in the criminalization of our young folk. We work with communities on the ground to build infrastructure and support so that they can campaign and push back. And then we also release policy and research that is novel based from our local communities and the work that they're doing on the ground and the lessons that we can learn along the way. So that is the Notice Coalition. And the reason why we have this Ending Youth Surveillance series is we really want to elevate the voices of those that are doing the work on the ground. And that's why we're here tonight. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Marika Pfefferkorn. I am the co-founder of the Twin Cities Innovation Alliance, as well as the No Tech Criminalization and Education Coalition, Notice. And I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Clarence, who will introduce himself.
Hey everybody, Clarence Oko, he, him pronouns, also a co-founder of the Notice Coalition. Super excited to be in conversation tonight. And I am excited to introduce our guests who are coming from the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council out of Chicago, Illinois, one of my favorite cities in the world, who'll be talking, as Marika said, about amazing organizing work that they have been doing, exploring the intersection of youth surveillance and the kind of health services that are offered to young people via telehealth platforms and other digital platforms. So without any further to do, I'll turn it over to Vanessa and Jose to get us started.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much. I'll give it a minute for the slides and then we'll go ahead and jump in. Perfect. Thank you all so much. We're really excited to be talking with folks about this wonderful new campaign that youth organizers in Chicago have been working on called Youth Healing Shy, which is both a fight for abolitionist mental health and because of that, a fight against surveillance technology. And you can go to the next slide. But we'll introduce ourselves first. My name is Vanessa Dominguez. I'm the lead youth organizer at Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. She, her, ella pronouns. I have been with BPNC for a couple years now. I started as a young person in their summer program that I now facilitate and have been a full-time organizer with them for a couple years. And I will pass it over to Jose.
Hi everyone, my name is Jose, pronouns he, him. I've actually been with BPNC as a staff less than a month. Wait, today turns a month actually. Um, but I've been organizing with BPNC since I was 14 years old. I started in high school. And I've been organizing for the last 6 years. So it's been I've seen different faces, different organizations, and different campaigns as well. But I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Jose. We're happy too. So I think we want to start a little bit, we want to start off talking a little bit about the Chicago youth organizing landscape and kind of how we got to this point. So in t between 2016 and 2018, or actually 2019, there were a group of very powerful young folks that were organizing against the cop academy that was going to be built in Chicago. A group of young folks that were talking to community members, talking to neighbors about, the city wants to spend $95 million on a state-of-the-art cop academy, actually, where would you want to see $95, 95 million invested in your community? And so organizers from that campaign went on to lead other campaigns, such as Erase the Gang Database, which was the gang database is a database that federal agents and both local police departments have that they are able to place community members on and label them as gang members. The youngest person we've seen on the gang database was like 3 or 4, the oldest person in their late 80s. And so there's no rhyme or reason to this. Most of the time, people do not even know that they have been placed on the gang database until they've been denied housing, denied loans, or unable to get jobs. And so um, youth that were organizing around the gang database then began telling adult organizers, hey, actually, it is the police officers in our schools, the school resource officers in our schools, that are putting us on the gang database. And so, even though we had been thinking about police-free schools for a very long time, there was a window of opportunity there for us in 2020 to really be the campaign kind of catapulted and we were really able to organize to get police out of schools, which we successfully did. And Jose was a part of that organizing. And just a quick shout out to young folks in Chicago. Cops Out CPS was the first and now one of 2 campaigns to defund the Chicago Police Department. So they really were doing that work. Um, and then uh, young folks that were leading work around Cops Out CPS, many of them then joined this new campaign and started leading work around youth healing shy. And so just wanted to share some of that landscape because it is it's not often, unfortunately, that we win really big demands, but just demonstrating what the trajectory of organizing can look like when we're constantly empowering young people to be leaders. And even in instances where we maybe didn't win our campaigns, young folks went on to lead other campaigns that we did win. And so wanting to really kind of lay that groundwork. You could go to the next slide. And so, specifically, when we were organizing around the gang database, when we were organizing around Cops Out CPS, when we were talking with community members, a lot of times the ask was very clear, or what we wanted was clear. We did not want police in our schools, for example. And when we got police out of schools and we started seeing that the district began signing more surveillance tech contracts, we, as an org and also just as a campaign, had to be thinking about how are we organizing folks in our community and thinking about political ed and leadership development, and sharpening our analysis on surveillance technology. And so part of that came because we would get a contract canceled and then another contract would pop up. And so, how are we getting leaders, parents, grandparents, caregivers to really think about, it's not this one contract we're fighting against, but it is surveillance tech we're fighting against, and this is why we are fighting against it. And because of the work we were doing around Cops Out CPS and policing work, we were able to then talk with community members about surveillance work. And these are some of the workshops we've done in our wonderful young people over the summer. You can go to the next slide.
Okay. So with Youth Healing Shine, we have identified 3 of our guiding values. Obviously, we have way more, but we want to narrow down as little as possible, with one of them being community care. So community care, mental health is connected to access to basic needs like housing, food, and safety. In order to meaningfully address young people's mental health, we need to address their basic needs too. So we know that mental health issues don't only come just because there's other factors like in life, at school, home, in their neighborhoods, they go on. That they experience for them to be able to develop mental health problems or be in need of mental health support. So sometimes lacking access to food, housing, and water, or like even clean water in CPS schools, for example, could be like a factor that plays into like their mental health. Our second one is choice. Everyone has a right to decide what is best for their own mind and body, including young people. No one should force you into a particular form of treatment or care. So something like in CPS, is forced hospitalization. So this is like where it comes in. So forced hospitalization, a lot of our youth were being forced to be hospitalized and um for 30 days if they presented any sort of mental health issue. And then parents also have the ability to say no. So if parents would say no, then um, the school, teachers, or administration would have to report parents to DCFS for not complying and for basically mental health neglect. But then it leaves basically no room for youth to be able to decide what they want and what kind of treatments would be best for them. And then just taking out the young person from the group, which would be from school and their community and home, and placing them someplace else and just like completely isolating them is not it's just not the answer. And then we have confidentiality. Students' personal information must be protected. Schools should not share students' information without permission, especially with law enforcement, immigration, and customs enforcement, and for profit companies who do not have students' best interests at heart. So, students have a quote unquote resource that is called Hazel Health in CPS. So they have virtual mental health support, but that is a database that keeps their information, but also shares it with third parties like ICE and other with immigration. Uh, but these are our guiding values for our campaign with Youth Healing Shy. We can go on to the next slide. Um, so we've also identified our three main campaign demands. Obviously, there's so much more that we would like for youth to have access to, but these are our main three. So 15 million for holistic healing programming and expanded mental health support staff. So um 15 million seems too little, but it would be like a good start. And we also want mental health staff to be trained with, like for them to be able to connect with youth and actually be trained and not be as part of the policing that's always been in CPS. So we don't need mental health like staff to work as police. We need them to actually be able to provide these resources for youth and be there for youth. We don't want like nobody just we don't want a cop basically dressed as a mental health staff. Um so we want well-trained people. Then we want a new mental health crisis response protocol that drastically reduces the unnecessary and harmful use of involuntary hospitalization through the overuse of SAS. This is what I was talking about, where like our youth are being forced to be hospitalized, and we just want to not do that anymore. And also, the protocol is like depending on how, like the level of which the mental health crisis is, sometimes police gets called on them, and it's left at the hands of police to be dealing with the crisis that the youth is experiencing. Um. Then our third one is removing all policing and surveillance from mental health and crisis response. It's just as it says, we don't want no policing, we don't want because like when police were removed from schools, then it just seems like there's this tech that comes in and basically substitutes police. So we don't want no sorts of policing and surveillance in the schools that basically criminalizes youth. And then we can go to this next slide. Safer Schools Together and Hazel Health. So Safer Schools Together is a surveillance tech company that reviews students' public social media to identify worrisome behavior, including but not limited to mental health. And then Hazel Health. Hazel Health is for profit telehealth company used by Chicago Public Schools to provide online therapy for students. Their practices have raised concerns around the surveillance and criminalization of youth around mental health. And we can go to the next slide.
Thanks, Jose. So Safer Schools Together and Hazel Health are the two contracts that we have really been organizing around canceling right now. Safer Schools Together, as Jose mentioned, basically uses digital threat assessment to review young people's public social media, which includes TikTok, Instagram, anything else they may have. Then threat analysis, look for what they consider worrisome behavior. We, there is nothing outlined in the contract that indicates what exactly is worrisome behavior. It's really up to the discretion of threat analysts. So once they flag that a student is showing worrisome behavior, they will send a message to school administration, and then school admin is notified and allowed to proceed as they see fit. And so this may be, again, working with clinicians in the school building. This can be providing or sending students for outside resources. But we've also seen, as Jose mentioned, this being a space where young people's autonomy is taken away and they are forced into particular forms of treatment or care because of things that they're posting online and how they are being monitored online. And you can go to the next slide. And Hazel Health is another surveillance tech company that we have been organizing to get the contract canceled. Hi, I saw someone just join. Hello, welcome. So students are identified either by teachers, by administration, or by parents as maybe needing one-on-one therapy. Unfortunately, in Chicago public schools, there is not a position that provides just one-on-one therapy. That's not a service that young folks have at schools. And so that was really the district's rationale for working with Hazel Health. Once students are identified, they're scheduled to meet with a therapist online, either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever is determined by the clinician. And basically, what this looks like is if they're supposed to meet weekly with this clinician, they're pulled out of one of their classes every week. They're placed in a room in the school building with a laptop and just left alone. There's no guarantee that students will see the same person all the time. Also, our schools already are overcrowded and don't have a lot of space. And so we've talked with students that say they're just being put in the janitor's closet with a laptop. Um, so again, the district has really used the rationale around there is nobody providing services, one-on-one therapeutic services for students as a reason to enter into this contract. And of course, our pushback is then we need to be providing those resources for students. The Hazel Health contract does not cost the district any money. It actually charges students insurance. And so that's another big talking point from the district that we're hearing. It's not costing any money, so it can't be that harmful because we're not even paying for it. But we know that somebody is being harmed, right? Young people are being harmed, and even though there's not a dollar cost, there is a cost to having a contract like this, that is providing what they consider care for young people. You can go to the next slide. So a little bit about what happens after. For Safer Schools Together, something online is flagged, it's sent to admin, admin talks with a parent, or Hazel Health, a young person is talking to somebody one-on-one virtually. But after all of this, what actually is happening with young people? Again, oftentimes young people are being forced into treatment. Their autonomy, their choice is taken away from them, and they are told what they need to do. And this often will mean that they are doing treatment outside of school. And so not only are they being forced into treatment, but they're being removed from community, from loved ones, from friends. Also, there's a lot of distrust that then happens. Young folks do not want to go to school and talk with somebody about how they're feeling because they know if I speak with somebody about how I'm feeling, even if that's somebody that doesn't work in my school building that I'm seeing online every week, somebody else is getting that information, and I don't know who has my information and what can be done with it. Um, Unfortunately, school push out, we see young people that have been forced into treatment leave school for 30 days, and because the district is not providing meaningful resources to young people long term, after those 30 days, young people just do not come back to school and they still don't have any support. Or students leaving school because they again don't have any support and enter a state of crisis. And then finally, the last really big thing we've seen is family policing. As Jose mentioned, oftentimes when a forced hospitalization process is initiated, the term that they use is issuing a recommendation to young people. What we've learned is that that is not a recommendation. It is actually something that they are mandated to do. And if a parent chooses not to follow through with that, they are then reported to DCFS for medical neglect. And so then wrapped into another family policing system. And again, all of this is happening in part because of the surveillance tech contracts that the district has entered into, and how they have chosen, instead of thinking about student safety first, thinking about what is going to benefit the district, what is not going to cost us money, what is an easy fix for young people that are experiencing a lot at home in their community, instead of speaking with young people and thinking about what does care and safety actually look like when that does not involve policing and surveillance. Jose, do you want to add anything? Good. So a couple, as organizers, calls to action for folks is that we have just launched this campaign at the end of December 2025. And so we had a beautiful group of 60 plus young people at an art party. We made banners, we made a huge petition, we did all of this beautiful artwork to demonstrate what care looks like for young people and what they want to see in their schools. And now we are building power. We're building people power. We're building power with young people, and we are making sure that we are loud about wanting these services and supports for young people. And so with that, the campaign has recently developed a sign-on letter that both individuals and organizations can sign on to just demonstrate the power that we're building and the support that the campaign has, both here in Chicago, but also nationally. And then because we're youth led, the best place to see what we're up to is on Instagram. We have young folks that work on our posts and that are constantly using it to share out the things that we're doing, when the next meeting is, how to get involved, and how to support. And so this is a really big ask we have right now, especially as we are working to get these contracts canceled. There will be continuous asks around helping us submit comments to the Board of Education or showing that you support Chicago's call for no surveillance tech in Chicago public schools. Um, and then I think we just want to end with questions that folks may have about the surveillance tech we've talked about, or maybe other things that people are seeing in their district. What we've learned a lot is that they are not very creative. The things that we see here is probably what other cities and states are going to see, and the things that other cities and states have seen in the past is now what we are seeing here in Chicago. And so one of the best ways to organize is to be in community with other people and talking about what are you seeing, what worked, what didn't. And so, yeah, just wanting to hear from other people what surveillance tech looks like in their district, and how we could support one another, what questions people have.
Well, I welcome folks to drop their questions in the chat, or come off mute and ask out loud. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you so much. Can I kick us off with a question? So I am curious, What has the response been of the school board? Are there individuals that you're able to work with? Is it collective? Did they even know about it? Kind of, can you just give us some details about like that? Thank you.
Yeah, so thankfully we have a good number of allies on the school board. We have been both organizations and our youth leaders have been meeting with board members over the past month, and we'll continue meeting with them in March to talk about our concerns with the contracts and why we want them canceled. Our board members shared similar concerns around data sharing and privacy, which is really great. And so many board members signed on to a letter that was written calling on CPS to either modify the contract that has that is not sharing students' data, or to cancel the contract. And so we think it's a really great step, and we're happy to hear that. And also, what we talked about before is like our analysis on surveillance. Like mo making a couple tweaks doesn't take away from the fact that young people still don't have the care they need, and also this is what the school district is choosing to use. And also, there may be other things that come up in the future with certain contracts. So we're happy where we're at with the board right now, but we know we have to continue to organize them around for us, an anti-surveillance kind of vision.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I also see a question in the chat we have from Mara. And I think she put it in there because they would prefer for me to read it, so I will go ahead. They're interested in knowing if 504 plans are being put into place for those put into the counseling services, or if they are working around that somehow.
You know, that's a great question. We have been trying to develop more relationships with clinicians in school buildings that we know are also allies that recognize these issues and want to also support us and young people in getting better resources. But that is actually not an answer that we have just yet. But it is a really great question, and so it is something that we can think about when we're meeting with clinicians, what that looks like. And if 504 plans are not being put into place, then what that means.
Thank you. I invite others to, and Moira responded that I wonder if there's a pathway to fighting it through that lens as well. Another group of stakeholders in the organizing work. I want to also extend hello to everyone that's just joined and also extend the opportunity to ask additional questions. I have like 50, so please come before me and ask a question.
I can kick us off with another question. First of all, I want to echo everything that Marika said. That was absolutely fantastic. And the work that y'all are doing is so impressive and so sophisticated. The analysis that you all have, the care, really centering young people and like youth leadership development, seeing that lineage that y'all are putting yourselves in, dating back to 2016 and like understanding how this is a part of, I mean, it's mind blowing. And it's what we know of you, Vanessa, and what we've now like learned of BPNC more broadly. So just appreciate y'all for that. My question is about pushback. I know a lot of times when we're dealing with surveillance technologies, a lot of folks, even community folks, will see them as alternatives, like good alternatives to policing. They see this as something that's desirable. We have a high tech solution to be able to find young people who are in crisis. And so, I was just curious if y'all are encountering any of those headwinds and how you're thinking about navigating them.
Yeah, I can start, and then Jose, I'll pass it to you if there's anything you want to add. You know, in moments like this, when there's so much harm happening to communities, there is also it's almost like an opportunity to gather with community members more and think about some of these issues. And so privacy concerns and data sharing have maybe become a little bit more important for community members because we have concerns around data sharing with federal agents. And so maybe previously, I think when we would speak with community members and caregivers and parents, it would often be like something is better than nothing. either we have a telehealth company or my child doesn't get to see anybody. Um, that becomes more, you know, that becomes that changes a little bit. That analysis changes when now we're thinking about data sharing with federal agents and what that means, especially for a community like Brighton Park. We have a really large undocumented population, and also most of our households are mixed status. Um, and so it is an opportunity for us as organizers to, meet community members and parents where they are at and say, yes, you are right. That is something we should be concerned about. And also, um, as we hear all the time, the district is going to spend money on the things that it wants to spend money on. It's not that we don't have the money, it's how they're choosing to spend it. And so instead of saying we need this or we don't get anything, we should say we're not going to settle for this and we're going to fight for something else. And so we have gotten pushback, but recently I think we've been able to build with more parents and community members because of that very real fear, unfortunately.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think that's very true. A lot of like parents initially would be like, this is just like taking away a resource. So like I feel like especially because like SROs was taken away from school, so it's kind of like they always see it as like we're always taking something away. Like we're taking away. We want to get rid of this or cancel this. But like we are not only saying let's remove it, let's cancel it, but this substitute it with something else, something that's actually going to work for like the youth and is going to give the youth also a choice and is not going to like collect their data and share it to third parties. So I feel like Vanessa mentioned how with everything going on with around immigration and ICE, in our neighborhood, especially here in Chicago, which it was like it's a huge city, but we experience a lot of federal agents in our city attacking our community members. I feel like a lot of parents have been aware of this and are like, oh, I don't want my they personally don't want their data share, so I wouldn't want my child's data to be shared with ICE or any federal agency. Not at this point in history, especially and not under this administration. So it's kind of made people a little bit more aware of like what's going on and what other ways like government and like local officials are like surveilling our communities and us as individuals.
Thank you so much. One of the questions I have, part of the work that we do with the Notice Coalition is we try to take what we learned from the neighborhood level, the grassroots level, and share it up nationally and connect communities across the board who either are experiencing it, potentially could experience it, or are recovering from it. And I'm just curious, as you've built out this campaign, have you been connecting with other communities that have been navigating it? It's also to your point where you said we know that this is not the only place it's going to be. So I'm curious, have you been able to, partner or exchange with other folks?
Yeah, we have, thankfully. And of course that's so important, and so we always want to do that, as much as we can, but because of the work that we were doing around Cops Out CPS, we were connected to orgs nationally that were fighting to get police removed from schools. And so wonderfully, a lot of districts did cancel their contracts um with local police departments, or we at least in our space saw some orgs that were working with can't get contracts canceled. But it also means that they're in the same place as us, where it's like, police were removed, and we were also fighting, as Jose said, to get resources put into schools, and then we just didn't get that. And so we've been coming together. There have been a couple orgs in California, there's an org in Denver that we've been working with, kind of to develop this abolitionist mental health model and really make sure that surveillance technology is a part of that analysis. So we're all just learning from each other and, sharing knowledge and sharing lessons learned, and hopefully can see more campaigns pop up across the nation.
Also, yeah. Also, it's not only like nation wide because like Youth Healing Shy, it's made up of other organizations within Chicago. So it's like not only something happening in the southwest side, it's also something happening in the north side, west, and east. So we see it across the entire city, and it's like different orgs coming together, who have different experiences in different CPS schools, and then saying like, okay, this is enough. We're gonna do it. We're gonna change this. We're gonna want to cancel this, but we're going to substitute this. So it's not like only other orgs who are like so far from us, but like our neighboring organizations as well.
That is amazing collaborative work to hear about. I can see Clarence's smile on his face thinking about all the connections across. I want to extend an invitation for folks to ask a question or share with us if it's an idea is percolating or coming to mind based on this presentation and conversation.
I came in on the tail end of it. However, my interest is certainly piqued, and I just want to know, will the presentation be shared just to kind of catch up on some things? Was it recorded? Like,
Thank you, Kiana. We're glad you made it. And absolutely, this is fully recorded, and we will be posting it to our website. And Vanessa and Jose have graciously agreed to share the PowerPoint as well. So you can watch it from the beginning. They did a really good landscape analysis of like how this emerged, how they responded, and how timing has a lot of impact on how they're able to move their way through the campaign. So it's a very rich story, and I encourage you to go back and listen.
this sounds spectacular.
Thank you. We're also always happy to meet one-on-one to talk with folks about the work. So, if after you review everything, you want to check in with Jose and I, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
I have a question around just like as far as the service providers are concerned within Hazel Health, is there a what is the like data sharing look like there? What are the privacy protections that are either in place or not in place? Uh, and like how does that uh, and I guess third, are they utilizing like Medicaid dollars to pay for this? And if so, then are they collecting even more data from students on that end?
Yeah, great questions. Something that we touched on briefly in the presentation, but we have a bunch of research on and have been thinking about for a very long time is a program called SAS, which does use Medicaid dollars. And that is um, essentially a service when a young person is, when an adult in the school building thinks that a young person may be having a mental health crisis, they call SAS. SAS sends somebody to do an evaluation, and then they issue that recommendation that we were talking about to decide how they want to move forward. And so that is a place where Medicaid dollars are used. In terms of Hazel Health, when we were meeting with board members, they drafted this like 2 to 3 page list of every single privacy violation that they saw when they looked in the contract, which was great. We were really happy about that because it was a really long contract and we really needed some support looking through that. And so we were able to meet with board members. And so I don't have all the specifics around that, but would be happy to check in with you one-on-one also, because we do have that information.
Very good.
One,
Clarence?
yeah, one quick question I had was, have you seen any like targeting or like disparate impact for like particular demographics of students who are being either identified by the social media monitoring technology or the students who are being like referred to forced hospitalization?
Yes, both unfortunately. The really, I mean, there are a lot of tricky parts, but one of the tricky parts around forced hospitalization is that The district has a policy that leaves a lot up to the discretion of individuals in the school building. And so, in one school with maybe teachers and admin trained in restorative justice, a student would not be hospitalized. Whereas in another that has not received those resources and doesn't have staff that is trained that way, they will be hospitalized. And so we see mostly on the south side and on the southwest side um, a disproportionate impact on the number of young people that are being hospitalized. The For Hazel, for Safer Schools Together, that is monitoring the social media, what we have also seen is when students are not speaking English, oftentimes that will get flagged. But again, the research that we have done at up until this point, it has been very difficult for us to understand like what is the rhyme or reason, like that certain words are being flagged and why are they being flagged and then what happens all the time. So, that is one instance I could think of that we have seen a couple times if, a young person is on TikTok saying something in Spanish, maybe that being flagged for worrisome behavior. And that can be like mental health, or that can also be they also categorize young people into, are they a part of a gang? Are they not, based on what we're seeing? Things like that.
A quick follow up. So are they? So it sounds like they're flagging students not just for like written content, but also for like video based content as well. Is that
Yeah.
right? Oh wow.
And I don't think that we, well, at least from the young folks that we've talked to, we haven't heard of this happening to any of our young people, but we have when we've connected with other folks around Hazel Health. Sometimes when students share like gender identity or sexuality, and they send that to administration for worrisome behavior, and administration brings that up to parents and caregivers, and maybe parents and caregivers whose children have not shared that with them. And so that is also really harmful and really dangerous.
We have a comment in the chat, and it's a comment that really struck me as well as they were that what you just described is it sounds like gaggle or student activity monitoring that doesn't actually include the social media. Um, and then I also just want to share that they also shared, we've noticed a lot of nonprofits in the mental health space that are coming into schools as a money grab, but raise a lot of concerns. We've tracked this in California, Pennsylvania, Florida, and yes, Illinois. They are trying to capitalize on the community schools movement without providing real services.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing more about that. We on this again, because CPS doesn't have a position that meets one-on-one with young people for therapeutic services, we do have a really rich community schools model, and so a lot of nonprofits and community organizations like BPNC hire clinicians who are then placed at different schools. Um, you know, Part of that means that our analysis as a community org can, is also shared with our clinicians. And so that is really great. But I'd be interested in learning more. And unfortunately, shocked but not surprised that is happening.
Well, this looks like we're building connections and building community to continue to address this. And also, Vanessa, I didn't mention it earlier in the recording that also Clarence and I are here to support for some of those additional analysis, policy, and legal pieces. Some of you may not know, but Vanessa is one of our national No Data About Us Without Us fellows for 24, 25 years. And we are really excited to be able to work with Vanessa and learn about this work as it was shaping up along the way. And so we are so excited that you join us tonight and we're able to bring Jose. Jose, congratulations. It's been a month. You've done, I believe, two presentations today. So we really appreciate your time, your energy, and the work that you've put into this. And I'm going to pass it over to Clarence so Clarence can wrap us up for the evening.
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that Marika said. Like, thank you all. Thanks to Vanessa and to Jose for this incredible presentation, sharing all the insights and thoughts and lessons that you all have learned and that you're encountering, and just like facilitating this conversation and starting to see the connections emerge between different folks' works and how we can support one another. So, y'all, just want to thank everybody for making it out tonight. As we shared, that we'll be sharing out both the recording and then the slides as well. So please feel free to share those out with your networks. If folks have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we're happy to facilitate connections for each other if you have additional questions. We are, and this is, as we mentioned, a part of an ongoing ending youth surveillance series. We've been doing these now for the last couple of years. We have all of them recorded up on our website, and this is where that'll be going as well. So be on the lookout there, and we'll have more announcements about next steps with this work moving forward. But again, thank y'all for making it out this evening. Look forward to following up with y'all into the future. And again, thanks everybody for making it out tonight. Y'all take care now.
Thank you all. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.